Right, guys.
Yeah.
So let's kick off, and we are joined today by Firdaws Nayimi,
Yeah.
who's currently in Pittsburgh at the moment. And you were put, we were linked up by our mutual friend Philip Ramirez Jr.
Yes, sir.
And
My man.
yeah, yeah, my man too. He spoke to me before and said, "You have to speak to this guy. He has an amazing story. You have to speak to this guy." So I was so chuffed when I sort of reached out to you and you agreed to come on. So first thing I'll say is thank you and ask how you're doing. How's things?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I really appreciate to be here. I've heard about your podcast a little bit, watching a few other guys, and then one of my close friends too, like Cody Law.
Yep.
So it was awesome to hear his story a little bit because sometimes hear people's deep side of the story unless you like listen to some podcasts or whatever, and you get to know a little more about them. I'm doing well. This is my 4.5 months since I moved out
Mhm.
to Pennsylvania. Still getting used to this place. I'm loving it. I'm loving the process just to restart. Uh, in my opinion, my life, restart my life, and then to finally do what I love to do. I finally found and accepted that it's part of my identity, like fighting, being like this warrior lifestyle through my whole life. It's been just like constantly fighting, battling, and it was tough to accept this because back when Canada, I was a plumber back in the union.
Mhm.
I was a fifth year apprentice, so I was like 1 year away from writing my license. I was making good coins.
Yep.
Um, uh, I was a very pro union person. My union helped me out a lot through my fighting career.
Yep.
They used to sponsor me. They sponsored me roughly for my every fight that I fought was around $5,000, which was pretty a lot of coins
Yep.
for me to get help from them. So it's been interesting. It's been an interesting journey. A lot of ups and downs
Yep.
in these two fight camps. Been I just had a recently a broken hand. I've been dealing with some injuries, but
Yep.
the journey is what makes it fun. The journey is what makes it fun.
What you said something there about people's backstory because what I've found through doing the podcast is that okay, it's based around martial arts and fighting, but and I think your story might be the most amazing story yet, possibly. But it's people's backstories that make things so interesting.
Mhm.
Uh, and you always find that people that are involved in martial arts or professional fighters uh, generally come from a place of hardship or they come from a previous struggles in life that have made them who they are. And I think you must be in that category.
Yeah. I just look what I've been through, like God's plan, and it's just a unique story. Sometimes it takes a while for me to sit down and to realize where I come from, and to understand that from where I come from in life right now, or any time, I already won. In like it's like from where I come from, it's like a dog eat dog world.
Mhm.
It's tough. The situation, the best way to explain the situation right now back home in Afghanistan, it's like a bunch of crabs in a bucket, and if a crab, if one of the crabs escapes the bucket, the other crab pulls him down. No one leaves the bucket. So
Yeah.
it's like it's been tough. It's been tough. Basically, for how I grew up, I come from a family of my dad's father, my grandfather that passed away a long time ago, back in 2009. Was it? He had five wives. So he had five wives, and then my dad was the first son in the whole family, and then I have a lot of uncles and
Yep.
aunts back home. So my dad's family was originally born. They were from Kabul, but then they somehow ended up on the west side of Afghanistan, a country that's called Herat,
Mhm.
and they're neighbors with Iran.
Okay.
And now Herat is the only province in Afghanistan that speaks a little different. For example, the whole Afghanistan speaks American English,
Yep,
and
yep.
Herat is the only state that speaks UK.
Okay.
If I would explain that to you,
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep.
because there's some sort of relationship and history in between Iran being their neighbors so close that there's been a. I'm not good with history, but that's the best way to explain it. And then my dad's family was into rug carpentry. Like they used to sell rugs. They used to go to Iran and bring them over. And then my dad was they're pretty wealthy because his dad would work hard, and they're just old school people. They work hard. And then in 1996, I was born in Herat with my mom. My mom moved down from Kabul to my dad's family.
Yep.
And then 1996, I was born. 3 years after I was born, uh, someone approached my dad in the market that he could, if he gives him if he gives him certain amount of money, he could illegally escape him and get
Yep.
him to Russia. And my dad gambled this. He took a big risk, and to this day, if I was in my old man shoe, I wouldn't have the, excuse my language, the balls to make this
Yep.
move. So
I
he
hear.
finally sold his house. We sold our property. I was a little kid, but he was just telling me to sell from one day when we were chit chatting. He
Yep.
sold his house. He sold his business, and then left his belongings back home. Left some properties, and then made money. Told his parents that he was leaving, and then no one really was supportive at that time with the idea because they're so family oriented. So it was hard for his family to see him leave.
Yep.
And then we finally decided to move in 1999 because of the Taliban. That's when the Taliban started taking over.
Yep.
And then my dad's store, prior to a couple of days before we leave, it was a family store. It was a pretty big supermarket. He got attacked by the Taliban, so they stole all the money, clothes, belongings, and everything. And my dad was heartbroken, and then we decided to leave. So when we escaped Afghanistan, since we were on the west side, we couldn't get through Afghanistan because there was all the Taliban. So we had to escape to Iran. We were in Iran for about 3 days. From Iran, we went to Pakistan. From
Yep.
Pakistan, we went to India. From India, we went to Tajikistan. From Tajikistan, we went to Kazakhstan. From Kazakhstan, we went to Russia. So we're on 16 days road trip,
Yep. Yep.
illegally passing through every country. I remember my mom telling me a story. As you know, I'm Muslim. My family eats halal food and stuff, and
Yep.
she was telling me when she was in Tajikistan, they were traveling, and then the person that was taking them through with a bunch of other families, they stopped over at a house somewhere by the forest or whatever, and they had the soup. They ate soup, and then my mom was so hungry that she drank the soup and licked it to the bone.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then the person that was taking him over illegally said, "How's the soup?" And my mom said, "Oh, it was delicious." And then he's like, "Oh, that was horse meat." And my mom just yacked it all out because she was just shocked. Because right, we're in Afghanistan, right? It's all like halal food, so
Yep.
she just started feeling worser. And she was pregnant at that time with my little sister, little brother. And then so we finally illegally, our last trip was get into a train illegally. And back in the days in Russia, the trains, bottom seats, they fold up, you put your luggage, and then you close your luggage. So
Yep.
me and my mom were in one of the luggages sleeping under people, and people were sitting on top of us. And my
Yep.
dad and my little sister, ours, so she was in the other baggage, were sleeping inside the luggage, like where the people put luggage. So we're closed with the tarped off for about like 16 to maybe 24 hours. And then we finally got to Russia. My grandfather from my mother's side was there. They somehow made their way there.
Yep.
And then life started it out in Russia. And I went to school there. I grew up there. And a lot of things happened.
Yeah.
A lot of things happened in the communist era when I lived.
Yep.
And that's where I started martial arts. And then the reason how I started martial arts is my uncle back in Afghanistan was a national champion in boxing, and my mom was a very big supporter. And then when I lived in Russia for 5 years, my dad worked in a bazaar.
Yep.
My dad worked in a bazaar, and every season, in a year, there would be four seasons, right? Winter, summer,
Yep.
and
Yep.
all the other seasons. So every season in a bazaar, you had to change your what you were selling. So when it was rainy times, my dad used to sell umbrellas.
Okay.
Summertime, he used to sell backpacks and the wallets and stuff.
Yep.
Wintertime, he would sell socks. And like it was crazy. And he worked in this bazaar. It was like the size of, if I would try to explain it, it's like the size of like a Manchester United stadium,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
bazaar like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
huge, like just like dirty with tarps. It's like barely hanging. I've seen like any so many multicultural people. I've seen as a kid a Chinese person speak Russian to me. That
Yep.
was crazy. I've seen some African American men speak Russian to me. That was like nuts. Because where the hell do you find someone like that in Russia,
Yep. Yep.
right? I've seen a lot of like I've been through adversity and seen a lot of different people that like when I look at them, I'm like, what's my excuse? These guys are just hustling, right? And
Yep.
then we finally lived in Russia for about 5 years, and then the bazaar business collapsed. It was 2000. I forgot what, I think it was 2005. The bazaar collapsed, and then it was very hard to live in Russia. Like even for us to go to like a grocery store,
Yep.
my mom would always have to take me with her because if you had a child with you as a woman, the police had no right to stop you. But if
Okay.
you're by yourself and you're an immigrant, they would stop you and they would
Yep.
bribe you for money before they would leave you. If not, one day I remember that my dad didn't agree to pay them. They took us to somewhere to a forest. They beat him up in front of me and they just let us out. And we had to find our way home.
Yep.
So it was pretty brutal. And then we had some relatives in a country called Belarus. It's
Yep.
right
Yep.
beside Russia. And my dad had enough in Russia, Moscow. That's
Mhm.
where he stayed in the city. And then he said, you know what, let's give Belarus a try. And at that time, I was like, I was, uh, I was like 9, 10 years old. And I was finally like came into a realization, like I was conscious of life and stuff. I'm like, damn, we have to restart again. Like we just came from Afghanistan. Like I made friends here. I went to school. And then finally we went to Belarus. And then my aunt and my uncle from my mom's side lived there. We
Yep.
migrated there, and then we lived there. I went to school, so I started back again. Thankfully, Belarus was more relaxed, was more calmer.
Yep.
People wouldn't harass you much. It was just different vibes. Very interesting to me to have a little freedom compared to Russia. It
Yes.
was very like you could feel the freedom. And then we moved to an area, and then we moved to an area, and then one day when I lived in the area, I see a bunch of guys running on the street with like little booty shorts, you would call like tie shorts, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then
Yep.
jacked people. So, and then I seen a bunch of group, and then just running down the street, and then I loved it. I just loved the vibes, just loved being around people because I was just always this immigrant kid that by himself, very unconfident. Back when I was a little kid, I used to have a sweet tooth, little chubby kid, very unconfident. I had to be the oldest of the family. I would always be the translator, helping, buying grocery. But I was very unconfident in myself,
Yep.
and then the sport kind of taught me a lot. But fast forward to I finally one day followed these kids to where they're going, and I seen they went down to this building, and then they went downstairs to this basement, and I said, all right, I got the spot. I'm gonna come here with my dad.
Yep.
And then I finally convinced my dad to come with me. So one day we went down this tunnel, and I was so excited. I'm like, oh, like damn, like I'm about to like train. As soon as I went down this tunnel, and then you open the gym, and it's the stanky smell. It's
Yep.
like
We
you
all know
feel
that
the
smell. Yep.
humidity, right? Your humidity, and then guys, I was new to Thai culture, and all you hear guys, why, like making this crazy noise. You're like, what the hell is this? And then I seen this gentleman over there that was one of the coaches, and he kind of came over. We talked. I was my first coach. His name was Yevgeny Dabrovsky. He was the Belarusian national coach for Muay Thai. He
Mhm.
was several world champion himself, and then he produced a lot of talent in Belarus. And his name ring bells all over the world. Even when I came to Canada, to America, people knew him before I even tried to explain it to him.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
explain to them who he was. And when my dad started talking to him, we slowly came to a realization that found out he was one of the Russians that went to fight in Afghanistan back in the thing. So he had a little history in Afghanistan, which is
Yep.
a little miracle to us. It's like, damn, like finally someone could not relate to us, but kind of can understand where we come from.
Yep. Yep.
And then he finally signed me up. I came in, and then my first date in the gym, my dad, okay, bought me these gloves. You know, sometimes when you buy like a Christmas gift, like a small bag, and these the cheap ass gloves,
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
even
Yep. Yep.
gloves, like free kids. So I
Yep.
just went with some like cheap ass gloves.
Yep.
First day of training, and then I can never forget this day. This world champion to this day, in my opinion, one of the best foreigners that fought in Thailand and still fights to this day, and one of the Muay Thai pioneers in this world. His name is Andre Kulibin.
Yep.
He
Yep.
fought Liam Harrison. He fought a lot of good American fighters. Michael Dix, one of the other. I remember his fights, and he looked at me. He laughed. He said, "Man, you need to get some new gloves. This is not even real gloves." And I would not. I got so embarrassed because I'm just a little less unconfident
Yep.
kid in the gym, and I just like got crushed deep inside, and I just like felt that like like because this guy was like a mega superstar. He was the golden boy in the gym back then. So
Yep.
everybody started laughing, and I just like died deep inside. And I went over to my dad next day. I said, "Dad, like you gotta buy me gloves, man. Like these guys were making fun of me and this and that." And thank God to my dad to this day, he he worked hard. He worked hard, and then he just went over. He bought this pair of gloves for me, and finally I went over. I trained, and after a while, uh, in there, like not like it's not like in North America. You come to your coach here, like you see a lot of fighters come to your coach. I want to fight. There, where you had to earn it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
over a period of time, I started training, and every time when I was a kid, I used to love come to the gym and just sit down and watch and surround myself around these older guys because I was always learning. Maybe not learning something technical, but maybe learning how to be more mature, how to be more disciplined. And I used to like love getting energy from Andre Kulibin, Dmitry Valent, Andre Kotsur, like a bunch of these multi-time world champion. And then they used to go over the world overseas. I used to watch them on TVs, pay-per-views, and I used to always get inspired by them. And I would if you would ask me back in the days if I thought I would be where I am, I would say you're lying. Like I would never believe that I would achieve such a big dream to this day. Like I would sit down sometimes in the gym and I would wish to be Andre's brother. I would
Yeah.
imagine, I would picture that if I was his brother, how would he would treat me. It was crazy. I was just going through some of these because I'd never had an older brother. I'd never had a lot of mentors. I never had a lot of people that I could look up to and be like. I always had people around me that been through some rough times, some bad times or bad examples that I always look up to, not look up to, but have seen that I never wanted to be like them and I
Yeah.
always wanted to be better.
You you
And
you you would have had that drive, but surely, like from as I said at the beginning of the podcast, you will always have that drive from, and I want to talk about this a little more in depth. You'll have that drive from everything you experience from 3 years of 3 years of age, having to leave Afghanistan, and then even that 15-day journey. Now I know you were a young kid, but I'm sure your parents, your father would have spoken to you and described what you had to go through, even just to make it initially to Russia. So your drive is always going to be there from your previous experiences. Would that be fair?
yeah, I get this drive for my mom and dad.
Yeah.
I feel like my mom's been through a lot. She had cancer back when we were in Russia, thyroid cancer. She survived. She beat it. Uh, she went blind with one eye. Went through a surgery while she had cancer. She beat that. Um, uh, I would I would honestly I've been through some dark times, dude. I've been through so much dark times that
Yeah.
like sometimes I'm afraid to let it out because how like deep it is.
Yeah.
like the best way to explain it is I've read this David Goggins book.
Yep. Yep.
And then a couple of first pages, how he explained his mom and his dad's situation and stuff
Yep.
like that. Uh, I've been through some rough times, dude. I've been through some like things that like I'm even afraid to even open up and talk about it because I just feel like it's so embarrassing and dark. But I never hate the experience that shaped me because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I feel like seeing my parents go through a lot,
Yep.
sleeping on empty room on like literally not even a carpet, like with my parents, seeing my dad go through to his last penny, come up to like having 4 3 workers work for him, having a little bazaar, having a store, and yeah, just like just seeing my mom and my dad go through so much suffering and them making it and getting that strength for them and saying if like we could do it, like we just beat the odds, like what I just said. From as soon as I do anything, I'm always grateful, and I always tell myself from where I come from, I already won.
Right.
Right, so it's like that's the type of mentality I always like to
Stepping
go
into
with.
the cage or the ring for you, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it's nothing, but if you, I mean, as a 3-year-old child, even surviving back in the day from, okay, let's go back a little bit to talk about just how dangerous it must have been to get out of Afghanistan for your family. So, for example, what would have happened if you and your family had been caught trying to flee the Taliban?
Oh, buddy, we would have they would have definitely killed my dad. They probably would have took my mom, and they would have probably like made me one of them. They would literally brainwash you, and it's risky. My dad used to, as I told you, my dad used to sell carpet, right, rugs for his dad. So he used to travel a lot,
Yeah,
and then when he used to travel a lot, my mom used to get scared for him, and so when he used to travel a lot, there's time my dad got arrested in Pakistan. He went to jail a little bit there illegally. Like they just caught him while he was going over, and then he got in an altercation once in Taliban. They beat him up pretty bad. Like he has a little like scar to this day. Like there's no hair growing on one spot, and then yeah, he's been through some rough times. Even like when he was traveling. Before he would get ready a couple of days ahead, he would let my mom know. He would make sure he grow a long ass beard,
yeah,
right? He would make sure he wears some dirty ass clothes. He would make sure that he wouldn't trim his hair. He would make sure that like to not carry so much money around him and like set a little traps, call his friend to make sure he's gonna check up on him when he gets here, call his brother, make
yeah.
sure like it was a quite a mission. Every time he would try to get over because like it was like life or death every time he would leave to go get rugs and stuff. So it was definitely time. We did come across a lot of like he came across a lot of like adversity with Taliban to the point where I'm sure he just got enough of it and he's like, all right, like if I die, I die. Like if I make it, I'll make it. Like I feel like that's what his mentality more. And it's still crazy to me. Because if
How,
you tell me to go back into my old man's shoe and make
yeah,
that decision, I probably would have stayed.
yeah. No, and I think that's completely understandable because of the level of fear that families have. Uh,
Yes.
how, how I don't know if you've discussed this with your parents or even just your father or your personal experience. How did it feel to you, or how does it feel to you now that the Taliban have regained control of Afghanistan? For someone who's made it out,
It's
so to
it's
speak.
it's shocking. Like it's shocking. Like I remember like escaping at whatever 3 years old. Like it's just shocking. It's shocking. It's like look at the world. The world's moving. Generations are going like it's everything's moving on, but like our country is still the same. Like it's just I can't believe it. Like I'm speechless. Like I remember talking to someone literally a year ago, not even a year ago, sorry, 6 months ago, to one of my friends is just like talking about our country situation, and then we're like until when? Like this is it's crazy. Like I don't know what to say. It's like history repeating itself again. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
back in 1999, this thing happened where we just took over. But it's like we're living in a world right now. It's like so much technology up there. It's just crazy to see that. Uh, like there's no humanity, man. It's a cold war. Like you know what I mean? No country supporting. Like we're like, how the hell do just a group of people just take over a country like that? But I mean, you just learned like we our country, our people suffered so much that it's just like we're just like heartless, man. Like
You know as well as I do, or I'll get your opinion on this. This is two modern Muslim men sitting speaking here. That isn't the Islam that I know.
yeah.
The
See one
Taliban
thing.
style of Islam is not our Islam.
Nah, nah.
That's
See
important to
one
say
thing
that.
people don't understand is being religious or being a Muslim doesn't mean you're perfect.
No, no.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like that's where people get confused. Is like if they see anybody identify him as a Muslim, they think, oh, he's like, you know what I like. Just
Yeah,
because someone says they're Muslim or just someone follows as a religious person doesn't mean they're perfect. Being a Muslim doesn't mean you're a perfect person or the religion itself. So
yeah.
that's what people. It's hard for people to understand.
Okay. So we get cut off there, unfortunately, but we
No
were
worries.
just talking about this false idea that people maybe have about Islam. And
Yeah, so to
cut off.
get back, I feel like the part of the problem is too back home people use religion as a weapon
Yep.
more, right? More and this whole idea about imam like a priest back home, it's more like it means more to people to be a priest than to be a teacher, to be an engineer, because those are the people back home that make these political decisions
Yep.
and it's tough to see it and yeah so I, I hate to see the country suffer a lot through religion. I feel like a lot of the problem it is back home. It's like mainly like religion. People think that like these priests pass on the different message to younger generation and sort of older ones. And I just feel like mental health back home something that it's never talked about, dude.
No.
These people suffer every day, just a little bit, right? From to little kids to adults. It's crazy. It's a tough one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So from eventually making it across the border and out of Afghanistan, and again, I do know that you were a young child at the time, but from what you've spoken to your parents about, tell us if you can go a wee bit more in depth and give us a couple of examples of the things, because you didn't get to safety until you got to Russia. So that 15 days, that I assume that was a very dangerous time until you finally were able to relax a little bit in Russia. What happened in that 15 days? How did you travel through the countries? Did your family encounter riskier situations? What happened from when you crossed the border out of Afghanistan till you finally got to Russia?
Just give me 1 second. Just need to open this door and I'll answer this
No worries.
question.
No worries. No worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
In the 16 days, so basically the way we fled Afghanistan is when we went to Iran. When we got there, it was just like my family, bunch of some other families were there. So this person found a route to get to Russia through a lot of these countries. We had fake passports, and then we did have fake passports, and sometimes we'd either travel through the car. So it would be like a van, and I kid you not, it would be like maybe like 16 people in one van.
Yep.
And like everybody, like there was no place to sit, everybody was on top of each other, things like that. And then when you will make it to one country, would probably stop the car somewhere and then walk through the forest or walk through a jungle area, get
Yep.
to this weird bonded house, be there for a day or two. The guy would cook something, or if there was no food, he would just give you some water, and then we'll get back in a car or walk a mile or whatever it is, and then get in a train illegally, like
Yeah.
hide yourself. And then once we get to a train, and then once we got to Russia, then it's like, all right, like you're on your own. Like I did my job. As soon as we touched down, my
That was
dad
it.
paid him the money, and Buddy just disappeared. And
Yeah.
then my grandfather was there on the train tracks. He was the one that met us there. And then as soon as we came down, we touched down. I remember my mom just like falling to tears and just crying so bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a quite of a journey. I don't remember a lot, but I remember my mom telling me these crazy stories that are like makes you question that, like, how hard he had life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a quite of a journey. Like it wasn't just like nice empty plane ride. It was car, a lot of walking, a lot of illegally trespassing some properties or houses, and getting into train illegally. So it was
Yeah.
it was a quite of a journey, definitely.
Yeah. I think. Do you have any children?
No, I'm single, man. I'm 25 years old right now,
Well,
still single.
I,
Where
I've got one son, and I'm thinking, and you'll realise this if, inshallah, you have kids. Uh, I'm thinking that the pressure that must have been on your father and mother to protect their children. So going through this journey, obviously they were very conscious of their own safety, but the
Mhm.
pressure your parents must have felt because they had to. How many children were they bringing with them?
We have our family's 4 kids. It's me, my sister, and my 2 brothers after.
Yeah,
And yeah, the pressure was tough. I think my mom. I think my mom, being she was more of she used to always take care of us. And you know how we're religion, like just our culture is, women usually kind of take care of the kids.
yep,
Man
yep.
goes there, hustles. And one thing I really respect my man, my old man, is he never complained a day in his life, man. He never complained a day in his life. He never woke up, said, I gotta go to work. That man got up, disciplined man. Every day he would get up, he would have his milk, he would have his eggs, he would have his yogurt, he would buckle up his belt tight. He put his belt up so high, buckle up his belt, clean up his shoes, wear his coat, and say goodbye, and then come in the next day while we're asleep. And that's just, he would like the definition, the term of hard work, you put that into shame.
Yeah,
And my mom was while my dad was like always working and making sure we had bread on our table, my mom was a very good housewife, but then she always taught us respect, morals, uh and how to treat something, how to be professional. Like I'll give you an example. We would I was one day sitting at home, and then my mom said, hey, pass me the remote, please. Right. And I just tossed it to her from one room for another, just tossed it to her. She and as soon when I tossed it to her, she looked back a little bit at me, like, what's going on? She took the remote and whack smacked me back, threw it back at me. She said, listen, she's like, I'm not a dog.
yeah,
Next time when someone elder asks you to pass you something, you take that, you walk over, you give him to the hand, and you say, here you go. It's like,
yeah,
don't you ever do that. Those are the type of hard lessons I had to learn, and to understand how to treat people, what respect is like, right? One day I was sitting in front of with my dad, and a bunch of his friends as guests. And my dad would always say, guests are always in Farsi. They say it basically says Mehman Rafiq Khudas. It means guests are always God's friends,
hmm,
meaning like they're guests. Like they're it's weird to say, but then what it basically means, when a guest comes over, it's God's friend. Make sure you treat him to
yeah. I
your
understand.
fullest. Make
Yeah,
sure hospitality is there, right?
yeah, yeah,
And then so my dad gave me, well, we're sitting down with his friends, and my friends were just like moving. You could tell the vibes are about to leave. My dad is looking at me, trying to give me the signal, and I'm not catching the signal. Like he's telling me something, and whatever. And then I still didn't understand. He just came over, took my ear, he twisted me up, picked up my ear in front of everybody. He says, when the guest leaves the house and you could see it. You go over there, you get their shoes ready, you get their coats ready, and you stay by the door, and
Yeah.
you greet them out. So those are the type of lessons I had to learn. And growing up in a country like Russia, you could not, as a kid, go onto the private in a transit bus and then see an older lady standing and you sitting down. People would force you, and then they'll point at you, say, "Kid, get up, let that older lady sit." So it's like I loved it. I love that I had to learn that in that way, a little bit hard ways, but I felt like those little things in life really taught me how to be a good human, but also learned me how to handle big things better.
Yep. So one of the charities that I've tried my best to support over the years and still do is UNICEF. And when we were talking before the podcast, and you mentioned
Mhm.
it was through UNICEF that you eventually made it to North
Yes.
America or Canada. Tell me how that played out. So you'd started martial arts in Belarus, uh,
So I
and then
started martial arts, and
got
then
to Canada.
when we got to Belarus, my dad, one thing he always would teach me, even when he take me to gym, he says make friends for us, make friends. He's like, you never know who you're gonna run into one day, and he always give me this quote that I live by. He says, your network is your net worth.
Yep.
Okay, and then I understood my dad, but I'd be like, why is my dad saying that? And then I understand that as I grew up a little older, and he knew a friend that worked in the UNICEF, and then his friend offered him, saying that, hey, there's some application coming up. There's chances of you going to Canada, and make set up application, and then go for it. And another thing that I've always learned from my dad, he says, never tell you what you're doing until it's done.
Yep.
And then because he says there's some people with the evil eye or evil spirit could get kind of like crush your step.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he never told my mom that he made this case, that he applied and we're in the process of going. And then while he did this, within this was 2008 when he applied. This is when the big inflation happened around the world. Like, it was bad economy. His bazaar was when the store in bazaar was doing bad. So he finally made the application in 2008, and then by 2009 we got approved. But he didn't tell us. He told us 2 weeks before we were about to departure.
Yep.
And then by that time I was in nationals competing. I was 3 years deep into Muay Thai. My first competition was in 2007. I placed silver at the Belarusian nationals. So it was good. It kind of was eye opening. I beat up a few kids. I seen other few good kids that were like national champions, and I was just like always scared of them, looking at them, because it was the same kids always running to each other. So I was doing good, and I thought, like, hey, you know what? Like, finally, after moving so much, we finally resettled. Like, I'm gonna go to Belarus. I'm gonna be like a world champion one day, like Andre Kulibin, and like, life is good. I'm gonna be like a national state, and my goal, what got me into Muay Thai, was to go to the Olympics of Muay Thai called IFMA, and I wanted to always go there and represent Belarus. And then that didn't happen, but then the dream led me to one to another.
Yep.
And then finally in 2009, my dad literally came home one day and he was just happy, this weird happy vibe. He's like, guys, we're leaving. Well, like, where? And he's like, we're going to Canada. And we're like, damn. And right away when he said that, I was like, damn, this is the American dream, because we always see America and Canada on TV, like when we're home alone, or
Yeah.
we didn't understand English, but we seen like what was going on behind the camera.
Yeah.
So then they're like, damn, like, we're gonna see the American dream. We're gonna go over probably. They're
See,
gonna
just
buy
before
us
you
that.
tell this, I'm being really rude to you. See the
Yeah,
clicking pen, the mic's picking up.
sure, no worries.
That
Yeah,
would
sorry
drive
about
people
that.
crazy.
No worries.
Carry on. Sorry.
No worries. And then and then I thought, when my dad's like, we're going to Canada, I thought we're like gonna go have our own like a house. I thought a yellow school bus in the morning is gonna come pick us up. We're gonna go in there. We're gonna go into school and cafeterias like we see in cartoons and movies. Like we're gonna make friends, and I'm gonna play American football. So I'm like, damn, like I'm sold to this dream. Like I'm ready to restart. Like, and then my mom got mad because my dad like he just said this 2 weeks prior to leave. So she's like, what are we gonna do to all of our belongings, like our couches, TVs? My dad's like, give them away. Like, who cares? Like, because my dad was very cautious of always like who he talks to, how like who his friends are. He would always worry about his inner peace and inner energy. And then he finally told my uncles from my mom's side that, hey, we're leaving. They got a little pissed off at us too. They're like, oh, why don't you tell us? Like we would have left with you guys. And my dad's like, it is what it is. And then we finally left. And then I remember touching down in Toronto on July 7th, 2009, when I came down in Toronto. And then I touched down in the airport, and I seen all the bright lights. I seen the country. I seen the airport, and I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I just had to like pinch myself, and then I was all excited. I think I was 13 years old, and then I was always like the small leader of the pack of the family, because I was like I couldn't speak English, but I could always get the job done. I could always pass the message, and I was like always the go-to because I was the eldest, and it was weird. I was to help my mom. I could read a little bit because back in Russia when I was in school, we used to learn English. I couldn't speak it, but I could read a little bit. I could maybe like say hi, hi, or you know what I mean. So I could say a little bit. And then we finally came into Toronto, and when we came into Toronto, we went to my dad's friend's house. He lived in projects. So you can imagine how like rough the projects are. We went to this area in Toronto that's called Jane and Finch. It's like the biggest project neighborhood in Toronto to this day. And there's a lot of gun violence, a lot of poverty, a lot of immigrants. It's like the slums of Toronto. Very bad. And when we got to his house, it was this nasty building. First thing, as soon as we get inside the building, the elevator opens and there's like piss on in the corner of the elevator, and I'm like, damn, we left one gutter to come to another gutter. And then back in the days, there was a game GTA, you know, the whatever they used to play on PC. And then I'm like, damn, this is like the game. Like we just came into like this hood. Like I was so like disappointed because that the picture that I imagined, like that school bus, a beautiful house, like that American dream, didn't happen. So I was so crushed. We finally we lived in this house for 2 months. It was rough. It was so much bed bugs. Like it was hard. We're like, damn, like this is not what we imagined. We finally got our own house in Toronto. We moved out and we lived. We bought we rented an apartment, and we finally got to apartment, but somehow our stuff got delayed, our carpets, our couches. And then me and my family literally slept for 5 days on an empty floor in a house with no food. Like we went to buy groceries and stuff, but literally no pillow. And I remember this day, man, it hits me so much. My mom was crying at home. My little brother was sleeping on the floor, and he was like, Mom, like I hate this. My mom's like, I can't believe like I hate this, like, you know, like this. She was just crying, and I turned around to my mom. I was 14 years old. I said, you know what, like it's okay, at least we got our own place now. Like at least, like that's what matters. At least we're in our place, we're not outside, right? And it hit me hard. That's when I was just like, be grateful, you know. Just like looked at my mom, and we suffered. And it was a hard pill to swallow. And then I couldn't speak English, so every day, like seeing our situation at home, I would literally go outside, sit all day in the front, waiting for like our carpets to receive, for our beds. It was a rough couple of days, and finally we got settled in Canada, and then I went to school. Where I lived in the area was called Flemington Park. It was another like a neighborhood, like a project area, and then there was a lot of Afghans, surprisingly, in that neighborhood. A lot of immigrants, a lot of people from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. It was a very multicultural area. And
Yeah.
then I went to school there. When I came to Canada, they put me straight into grade 8, no English, bro.
Yeah.
So it was hard. It was hard. It
Yeah.
was hard going from a school where you sit in a class. In order for you to use the washroom, you got to put your hand up. The teacher in Russia would see it, acknowledge it. Okay, go. All right. Or it was weird. I remember going to class in Canada and then sitting down, and all of a sudden, kid just gets up and walks away. I'm like, wow, like this kid just didn't get paid for doing that. Where's the respect,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then there's me. I didn't know that he could just get up. So I put my hand up. The teacher was surprised because I couldn't speak no English. Like, how come is he asking a question? It's like, yes, Firdaws, what would you like? And I said, toilet, toilet. That's all I could say. And she's like, oh, you don't have to ask. You can just go. And then there was an Afghan kid surprising in our class. I said, what did she just say? She says, oh, just go. Don't ask. I said, oh, snap. Okay, cool. So then I just went, and yeah, it was very different. And then I finally went to high school, graduated high school. When I went to high school, I found a gym in Toronto that was called Warrior Muay Thai. It was run under a gentleman named under Zubair Khan. He's from Pakistan himself. But then I hit him up on Facebook. I did a little research about him, and I signed up. I started training there in 2011. I had my first exhibition fight there in Canada. When I started training, Muay Thai was illegal.
Yeah.
And then
Yep. Yep.
so we're doing a lot of these exhibition matches and stuff like that. So I had a lot of like these fights and stuff. And then finally I started fighting as an amateur. And Zubair Khan was huge, 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 huge part of my career success. This gentleman was just like a genius. Was like a genius in the Muay Thai scene. He was very big in Canada. He was like one of the OGs, like a pioneer in Canada. Him himself, he fought in the international level of Muay Thai. He fought in Thailand. He has about like close to, I think, 50 to 40 amateur fights and a couple of pro fights.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then so me and him fought I stayed in the gym for, I think, until 2017, 18, until I decided to MMA.
Yep.
Me and him concurred the 139.7 to 142 was a title in Canada best. And then when I got the title and I fought, I was best in Ontario, in my province. I couldn't travel outside of Canada because I wasn't a citizen.
Right.
So, and then it was hard. I was heartbroken, and I gave up on the sport, bro. I gave up on the sport. I was heartbroken. I was depressed. There was some things happen in life where I was doing some schooling, and then I got kicked out of the schooling before I was doing plumbing, and then
Yep.
I thought life was over. I got rejected from the school, so I was hanging around in my neighborhood, being around people in the projects, and seeing friends get arrested and stuff. And it was tough. I was like literally heartbroken. I gained weight. I was 187 pounds, dude.
Okay.
I was depressed, and then my own mom doubted me. My own mom was like, "Listen, like you're bad at the sport. You should quit," and this and that. And it was shocking to me, like my own mom saying that to me.
Yep.
And then I got the fire back slowly, and then I came back. When I came back, I got this opportunity. I got my passport eventually.
Yep. Yep.
Then when I came back, 2016, I started slowly training. I fought in this tournament called WKA in New York. I
Yep.
made
Yep.
it to the finals. I made it to the finals, 8-man tournament, and then I lost because I was fighting in 147, and guys were bigger. And then that's where I learned to respect the weight classes.
Yeah.
And then it was hard. I came back after my tournament. I had like I thought I was like talented kid. I could like brush through the tournament with my talent just because I did a lot of like cheating. I didn't cut weight properly and this and that. And then I lost and I cried. And then I lost again. And then that's me coming back after this depression and after this layover. So I had 2 losses back to back, and it just killed me. And I was like crushed mentally. And then my next fight, I actually went another weight class lower.
Yep.
Like I went to 142, and then I I lost that one, and then it was like 3 losses in a row, and then I was just like crying. I was just like, like it was hard. So it was like I was like so desperate to win. So I just started changing my identity, start being more disciplined, start researching how to become a better, like what to do, how to level up my recovery. I started doing ice bags. I started doing things that I hated because I hated losing. I had enough of it. Like
Yeah.
I went through so much that this depression just like literally like put so much toll on me. And then finally I got the offer. I tried out for Team Canada for kickboxing for Waco. And then I
Yep.
finally made it. I finally made it. And then they offered me to fight in China for a promotion called Wulin Feng.
Okay.
It's WLF. A lot of great kickboxers fought there, like guys like City Chai, guys like Chengiz Alazov, one
Yeah.
of the great kickboxers that I trained with too, and like I knew him as a friend. My favorite MMA fighter, Israel Adesanya, fought for the same promotion in the
Yep.
same
Yep.
stadium as I fought. So I fought in this promotion 2008, and then I signed a contract. I finally they made the Team Canada, and then I was supposed to fly to China to fight Chinese fighters. There were 10 fighters selected from Canada, and we got this paid trip, everything paid for to go fight. That was my first bear shin fight that I
Right.
accepted to go in China, and then and I'll never forget this. China, this fight I lost, but it was the best thing that happened to me. It
Yeah.
was the best thing that happened to me. Yeah, I seen my potential in that fight. I seen my future in that fight. I seen what I'm capable of, and so much stuff more. And going to a country like China and then seeing like how life is there, it makes you feel more grateful and to see how kids are suffering there. And when I went to China, I went there by myself. My coaches couldn't make it. Uh, it was tough. I was there with some other coaches that never cornered me.
Yeah.
I was cutting weight. I was working a full-time job as a plumber
Mhm.
while training for this fight. I remember like sometimes breaking down at work, like literally like breaking down, like literally sitting down. And then at that time, I was telling you, I was like so desperate, try to win, try to find a way to win, that I was doing like ice bath stuff. We're doing Wim Hof breathing
Yeah.
methods.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
was watching my diet. Uh, I was like try to be on point because I couldn't afford to lose anymore. Because if I would after this China fight, my decision was if I was gonna lose, I was gonna quit the sport. That was it.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna hang up the gloves, and then some days I would break down and I'll hide from my boss. I would literally chill somewhere and I would like put a timer on my phone 10 minutes and I would just breathe 10 minutes, and then I finally go back to work.
Yeah.
And then I was cutting weight. It was so hard. I was like literally drinking black coffee every day to just keep me on. It was hard. Some days I would pull up the gym. I was so mentally tired that I'll make 10 laps around the circle. I'll come to the gym and I'll say, I'm tired, man. I don't think I could do it. And then I'll be like, no, 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 no. All right, I'll go back. I would literally try to get out of my car and be like, no, man, like I think I need a break. And then I'll go back. And then I finally made it to the gym. I did my session. It was so hard. I've been through a lot of obstacles, and I was like a first year apprentice when I was working. So I was like this helper that was like
Yeah.
running
Just running.
around, like you know how apprentice gets treated. And then I finally made it to the fight. This fight opened my potential so much. This fight was the first fight that I made $4,000 from sponsors. I
Yeah.
reached out to my company that was called Alberici. They're a pretty big construction company in America. They're the ones that built the Miami Dolphin Stadium. I reached out to the president and I said, hey, I told him about my life story. I told him about my journey and how I'm on Team Canada. And he loved my story. He said, you know what? You've been through a lot of diversity and I want to help you. So they sponsored me about $2,000, and then there's another couple of catering company, and then some other people sponsored me. And that fight, I made first time I made money, and I was as an amateur, and I was like, damn, like I could make a career out of this. I could
Yeah.
maybe like if I could do this, God knows, maybe I could chase more. Like
Yeah.
when I get accomplished, I could get more better opportunities. So I started making my own shirt, my logo, my sponsors. It gave me that feeling that like if you go after what you want, you'll get what you want. And I
Yeah.
finally fought in China when I fought for this promotion, it was my first time for fighting in such a big promotion. The lights, the cameras, the medias. We're getting really treated like professionals, right? Fighting in the same stadium as Israel Adesanya. So it's like all these emotion, mixed feelings. They really get to you, right? At the hotel press conference, shootout, media day. So I'm like, damn, like we're really getting this experience. And then I finally was about to fight. This fight, I was never so nervous, dude. It was like I was so nervous that like like I was shaking backstage when they were about to call my name. Like I was telling my Team Canada coach, and it was just like, relax, relax. Like we're just talking. I finally made my walk. I get there. I remember that Mike Tyson impression. I was looking into his eye, and I wouldn't let him like slip away from me. And then finally, we fought round one, round two. I fought, and when I fought, I was so nervous that when I fought the first two rounds, I was so um, impressed of myself, so proud of myself while I was fighting that I was like, damn, Bobby, like you belong in this. This is your world. Like you're doing this. Like I'm looking over and while the while the break is happening around, like I'm fighting in the stadium. Like this dream is actually happening.
Yeah.
And then round three, last 30 seconds, I'm winning the fight and I get dropped with the spinning back fist, one of my favorite moves. And I get an 8 count, 1, 2, and I just get up and this fire inside of me that like just ignited and it just ambushed, and I knew it just like it just slipped away from me. And then I fought well. I came back into the round. I lost, and then I lost a split decision because the round was 10-9, 10-9 for me, the first two, and the third round was 10-8. So it didn't come to a draw, but it came to like a decision where they had to favor one guy. So two judges gave it to him, and one judge gave it to me. And then as soon as he won, I got heartbroken, and then I got very heartbroken. I went to the room, and then I just like punched this wall. They made a huge dent, and my coaches were going crazy. And then I had to apologize to the promoter. A lot of emotions going on, and I lost. And I was just like, like I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I finally, after I came down, it hit me, and I'm like damn, like if you would ask me like when I was depressed fighting that I was gonna fight in this tournament, that I was like I went out there and I survived one of the best in the world. Like these China fighters, he fought like this a lot of these Thai legends that had 200-300 fights, and some that he won, some he lost. So I was like, this fight, it opened my eyes to see that I really belong at this level. I can really hang in there. If I could go back and just stay true, stay disciplined, and really live this life full time, that I could like it's doable. I could do this. Like I remember calling back to my coach Zubair Khan and saying, dude, like I was so positive that I couldn't believe how I was reacting, right? And the next day I went back home, and then I was very positive, and my coach, and we got back to training. And dude, afterwards, when I was watching my fight and this promotion and the video was on YouTube, it was just like, it was so addicting. The feeling, that having that tension, having that like experience, and like being representing Canada finally, and like being finally feeling like a human, finally being treated, and finally coming from like a fat kid that never thought, seeing Andre Kulibin, go through all these things from a kid, like imagining having dreams that I would win fights, and imagining that I wish I was Andre Kulibin's brother, to making it to that point. And we're just like, kid, like I think you got it. Like that fight gave me so much confidence. When I came back, they offered me to fight a Chinese guy again, this time in Canada. So this time I made sure I trained hard, like super hard, like I still was working a full-time job. This time I made 7,000 of sponsors. That was my first time making big bucks as an amateur, and I was just like, we're getting rich, baby. Like we're getting rich, right? It's crazy because my union started helping me out. I finally started reaching out to my union. They sponsored me. I finally started coming up with my logos, my sponsors, and then my other sponsors. And I sold about 120 tickets. That was my first time making like my first time ever selling tickets, and it was all time high. So
Yeah.
I was getting this love, this support from the city, from my friends, and it was it was in the stadium, Markham Pan Am Center. It was in the stadium, and then I was literally doing everything I can. I was doing researches, watching a ton of Joe Rogan podcasts, changing my habits, driving to gym instead of listening to music. I'll listen to a podcast. I started instead of drinking regular coffee, I'll drink a mushroom coffee
Yep.
instead of
Listen,
instead of just
we've
like
all done all
doing
those
instant
things.
things. Dude, I would do like sauna workouts, like where I would sit in the sauna for 20 minutes, go do ice bath for 2 minutes,
Yeah.
repeat 3 times. Like just because I was so addicted at the feeling of that China fight, and I seen like my future potential through my like eyes, that made me so addictive to like winning. Like I didn't care that I was losing. I didn't care. Like I had nothing to lose. Like it was crazy. Like it was just this new Bobby was born,
Did
and
that
then
come
I
from,
really loved it.
did that come from your childhood? But did you still have this in your head of where you had came from, and
Yes,
now you were, and you had defeated that, you had
yes.
won that battle
I
that you had?
finally accepted
Yep.
by that time. Before that, I hated it. I hated the experience that shaped me. I always say, oh, like I always have a chip on my shoulder. I always had to like that I had to prove someone, that I always had to put a statement. But life is more than that.
That's
Life
why
is
I'm
bigger than
asking.
that.
Yep.
Life
Yep.
is bigger than that. I finally came to realization. I was like scrolling one day through the Instagram, and I found this quote. I'm a very like philosophic. I love quotes and poems and stuff, because back
Yep.
when I was in Russia, one of the curriculums are there was a poem class. You had to memorize poems and quotes as a kid from like 1 to 5, like
Yep.
2, 3 pages. So always kind of that made me fall in love. So one day this quote says, "You cannot hate the experience that shaped you, but you can only embrace it." And so I was like, "Damn, that's right." Like if it wasn't for that, all the stuff that I've been through, I wouldn't be the man I am today. And then finally I had this fight in Canada to versus China, and then I won this fight. I had the most supporters. Like that whole stadium was just like crazy. When I walked in, it was like Bobby. Like this atmosphere was crazy. My mom's first time coming to come see me watch fight. I brought my whole family tickets. Everybody was there. Like it was a crazy atmosphere. I really felt like a superstar. Like I really seen my more potential. I seen, hey Bobby, like if you could sell 120 tickets, if you could make 7,000 as amateur for sponsors, like the sky's the limit, kid. You
Yeah.
know, and all this media, all this attention, my name was blowing up a little bit. People start hitting me up for promotions, and then from there, my fire, desire, I just went to another level, another notch, another notch. And while I trained for this fight, I met Evan Boris, my coach that I'm training now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way I got connected with him is through my buddy named Amin Al Malik.
Okay.
He's like a 10-time world champion as an amateur in Muay Thai, and he's the first Canadian to win the Pan Am American gold medal for Canada
Okay. Yeah.
in Muay Thai. And me and him trained a lot at Warrior Muay Thai. We're like me and him were pretty close buddies, and we went to the same high school, grew up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
That he was the reason why I joined Warrior Muay Thai. And then he introduced me to him one day. He used to train at a gym called Southside, and then he was his style is more Dutch style.
Yep. Yep.
He's the one that made me fall in love with Dutch style kickboxing. And then he trained, helped me for this China fight a lot. And then slowly, I started training more with him, And then I found out that Evan used to train in Florida in the Hard Knocks with Usman Kamaru, Michael
Yep.
Chandler, Dominic Mazzota from Pittsburgh here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of great athletes. And me, I love doing research. I love doing research about people. I love finding out who is who, and not just doing research and meeting or try to meet famous people or whatever, but just finding out a little bit about people. So that way, when I talk to them, or I'm meeting them or anything, it just makes them more appreciated to know a little bit more about them.
Yeah.
So, and then I finally got in touch with them, and I started training with them. But then I started my coach Zubair Khan. He has 4 kids. He had a gym. It was hard for him to run a gym and then to train, and it was he I was being more now full-time training. Like I was training hard, And then it was hard for him to be there, handle business, 4 kids, family. He had a full-time job. He was working for a hospital. He was our top recruiter and stuff. So, and then finally it was hard. I had a lot of big opportunities coming up, and then we finally came into a realization that I was just gonna start working with Evan more, and me and him kind of sat down. He's always gonna be my brother. He's
Yeah, no,
like
I understand it.
my
Oh, yeah.
best friend. You know, it was hard, and he came to a realization, accepted. He says, "Hey, do what makes you happy. I'll fully support you. I understand that I can't give you the attention I can give, and I respect you that you came to me. And loyalty is number one to me. I always stay loyal to my people, right? Like loyalty is number one to me. I always ride for someone to the until the wheels fall off. And then we finally came into realization. And then I started training with Evan full time in 2019. I had my another Muay Thai fight with Evan. It was an A class. We fought another American guy from Chicago. He came over to Canada, fought in Canada, a main event. It was another fight, bear shin, and then amateur, and then A class, elbows, knees to the head. Everything was pretty cool. That
Yep.
was another event that sold about 120 tickets, made a bunch of money, sponsors. So it's like the wheel is rolling. Like
Yep.
I'm getting confident. I'm getting like better. I'm evolving. I'm getting this fan base. I'm making my name. I'm building my brand. I'm seeing my potential, and I won that fight. And then I had a lot of support. And then one day, me and Evan were training full time. And then I said, I knew Evan was training MMA, and I seen a lot of guys. He used to train Dominic from Mazota that trained with Phil. He came
Yep.
one day to Toronto, and then I seen him train with Evan. And then I seen him a little bit. He was like my height and whatever. And I knew it was in Bellator. And I seen them. He was moving around. I'm like, okay. I'm like, if this guy could do this, I could do it too. Like we're humans. Like if you cut this guy right here, he's not gonna bleed blue. He will bleed red. He's like, so
Yep.
seeing Dominic training a little bit MMA, he was a very good grappler, but his standing was okay. Like he was evolving. So
Yep.
like I was a little cocky kid. So I was like, I'm a better striker than him. But if I get my wrestling a little better, like I can stand with this guy. I can stand with this guy. And then one day, it was me and Evan training. I said, Evan, I want to do MMA. I was just like a little shocked to Evan. He's like, you want to do MMA? I said, yes, I want to do MMA. He's like, all right, we're training MMA today. And he just switched it up 360.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right, we're gonna do ground and pound. I'm gonna be on top of you, escape. And I have no jiu-jitsu, no wrestling. And this guy's just giving me hell. And he just gave me this MMA training, put me on the ground and pound, did a little wrestling, and then he gave me this MMA, like little taste of MMA. So like, so you like that? And I was just like, yeah, I'm down. He's like, all right. He's like, we got to get you start wrestling. So, and then I started doing a little research, seeing who's good in Canada, who can I train under. And then I finally came into a realization that I want to join this gym called Niagara Top Team.
Mm-hmm.
They're in Niagara Falls. I was in Toronto. It's like 2 hour ride from me.
Yep.
So
Yep.
every day I would work. My schedule every day when I was fighting with Evan and training was I would wake up at 5 a.m. I would get up, have my breakfast, pack up my lunch, cook all my diet food because I was on a diet while I
Yep.
was training and fighting. So I would wake up 5 a.m., get up 5:30, start work 6:30, working labor. Like I'm talking labor work, buddy. Like they don't care how tired you are. They don't
That's
care
the
if you went
best
to gym.
feeling.
These are grown men that they don't give a single care that who cares. Yeah, you gotta work. Like it's 6:30, you gotta pick up that 20-inch pipe, put it on your shoulder. There's no elevator, you're walking up the ladder. So I had to get ready. Like I used to be wired up before the work. And then after a hard labor work, I would get off work at 3:30. I would always work in the city downtown, sit in the car, my construction clothes. And then I used to work at a water treatment plant. People don't know what a water treatment plant is, a shit plant as a
Yeah.
plumber where shit comes in, gets cleaned in, and goes back to the lake. So
Yep.
some days, dude, I kid you not, I was sitting in my car and I would literally smell, I was stink bad, dude. I used
Yep.
to open my windows. I was used to be a little broke, and I used to have this Honda with no AC, nothing, and things used to get heated in the car. It used to smell bad. And then I used to be in traffic for 2 hours 4 times a week. I used to go in the car and then drive to Niagara Falls all the way to the border. 2 hours in the car in traffic, make it to practice. I would always be late to practice, always, because it was hard. I would get off work at 3:30, and I had to be in practice at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Our coach was one of those coaches. Is I don't care, work harder. I don't
Yeah.
care. That's your
Yeah.
problem. Like you
Yep.
know. And then when I made, so I had to like crush this 2 hour drive into 1.5 hours. So I used to like gun it. This little Honda used to just like zip through the highway through traffic, and then I used to make it to training always late, but then I always give my 100%. And then finally, I started training. I came into realization. My wrestling coach, we started training. He's seen how good my striking was, so he invested into me a lot. And then finally came to realization. Says, "Kid, you're good. I think it's like if you do this full time, like there's a lot of good potential." So out of nowhere, I just got laid off, asked for layoff,
Yeah.
and then I collected EI, insurance employment, and I moved in with my wrestling coach. I was in his house living
Yeah.
for about 3 4 months, and I literally quit my job. I told my mom. She was surprised. She was shocked, but she wanted to support me. She's like, "Do what makes you happy." And then it was hard because the day that I left, oh, even though I lived like an hour and a half away from home, and then but they'll always come visit me. But my mom would always get emotional, crying because I was always like the eldest. I always had to take care of my brothers. My mom been through cancer. She had thyroid cancer. She
Yeah.
survived in Russia. She's been through a lot of medical problems. She has a little bit of mental health issue and stuff like that. So I always had to make sure not just my mom was good, but my mom, my dad was good, the relationship between each other, make sure my brothers were walking straight in the straight line, making sure they weren't giving my mom a hard time. Like I was like the man in the house, but like not really, but like just making sure everything was
Oh,
aligned. Even it was hard,
yeah.
like a 20-year-old kid didn't have his life together, was figuring out life, but yet I was like independent, but I got people dependent on me every day, dude.
Good.
Every
I
day.
understand.
Like
Yeah.
it was hard for me. Even when I lived in my wrestling coach gym, my mom would call me, "Oh, your brother doing this, you this and that." And it was hard. Like even like jumping into MMA, like not knowing how to wrestle, going every day. Guys used to kick my ass because I was a good striker. When we used to spar MMA in small gloves, I used to like give guys some good work. And then the moment they used to take me down, I was just this useless kid, and he used to like
Yeah.
punish me. He used to punish me hard, right? And then eventually, I started living with my coach, and I started going broke. I started running out of money. I didn't have like literally $1 to eat, and then it was hard. I told my coach that I had to finally go back home and get things together, and I would come back. And then that fell apart. I finally had to get back to work. I started had to help out my family with rent, with groceries. It was hard because my dad is the only breadwinner at home.
Yeah.
So I finally started helping him out, and then I got back to work, and then finally the COVID thing happened. And then before the COVID, I finally came down to Pittsburgh with my coach
Yeah.
to Matt Factory, to Dom Mazzota down here, and met Isaac Greeley, and I seen the country, Pittsburgh. I kind of liked it. I came to Lower Borough, so it was like a little more country. I was like, I'm a city guy, you know. I'm not a country boy, so it's like I was always around cities. Like so, coming to here, Pittsburgh, a little bit like Lower Borough countryside, was a little bit. And we came to this Math Factory. My thing was always talk about Math Factory. These guys are good. I come to this little blue dungeon. I'm like, oh, like this is a small ass gym. Like these guys say they're good. Like let's see what they're all about, dude. I come onto the mats and I get my ass whooped. This little guy named Jimmy Sarah, he's a black belt. I didn't know he was a black belt back in Math Factory. So I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, I'm gonna kick this guy's ass, dude. Like this guy doesn't stand a chance. As soon as I get there, I'm rolling with this guy, and this dude just kicks my ass, crushes my ego. Right after that day, I learned to respect everyone in the gym. That lesson gave me the best lesson is to treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Doesn't matter if someone looks weak, someone looks like strong or whatever. Always respect anyone. Doesn't matter white belt or whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of got a good like good vibes from the wrestling. So I went back to Canada, and I knew like I had to come back here. Like I had this feeling like this is it. Like this place is gonna give me what I want to. So then when the pandemic happened, I was still working and stuff like that. And then 4.5 months ago, Evan, my coach, he left the country. He went to Florida to see his friends, to just go train, meet a couple of people. And one day he just called me, and we had this deep conversation. I said, Bobby, you think you got time? You're 25 years old. You think you're young, but you don't. Like tomorrow is not guaranteed. There's a kid, because he went back to see Usman Kamaro, Michael Chandler, and these guys. And he says, kid, you got talent. Like I believe in you. You could hang with these dudes, but like just let's do this together. Like you could
Yep.
do this. And when he gave me that call, like he gave me goosebumps, and like he gave me goosebumps, and like I cried afterwards when I talked to him. Cried that like I came into realization after that call that like this is it. Like this is meant for me. This was destined. Like I want to do this. Like this wasn't just like a call. This was like God's message. Like
Yep.
sent give it to Evan to send it to me to say that like, hey, like kid, like go for it. Like go for it. So
Yep.
after that night, uh, I told my parents, hey, I booked my ticket, and I said, hey, I'm gone. And my mom's like, she was shocked. She was speechless. She just sat down, and it hit her,
Yep.
and she's like, okay. She's like, okay. She's like, I'm happy. I'm happy. Anything you want to do, like go follow your dreams and go this and that and go do that. So before I left, I had to like save up a little money because I was like a little breadwinner back home, and I used to help my parents with like cost and rent and stuff like that. So I had to like make sure my family was good before I leave. So I had to work a little bit, give like good chunks of money for rent and for help and stuff like that. So that
Yep.
way, like they're good. By the time I go there, you could figure out some. And I helped out my younger brother. He was like 20 years old. I put him into electrical unit, so he's an electrician now. I'm happy he's helping out the family, always providing. And my sister, she just had her first kid, so it's happy to see that. And then she finally graduated college for like second one in the family. I was the first one too. And
Yep.
then she did social worker. Like our family is very young. Everybody's just like finally like coming up, like
Yep.
building a life for themselves. So it was finally good to see. And I made this move. I came here, and it was hard. It was so hard to let go of everything to come down here and to restart
Yep.
and to finally restart. So when I
Again.
came down here,
Again. To
dude,
restart
talk about
again.
it. Like this is my like fourth time like restarting. Like literally that was my thing. Like shit again. Like my finally when I was coming down here on the airport on my way, my dad was dropping me out. I was tearing up and on the way back there, and I'm just saying like, damn, like how am I gonna do this? Like how am I gonna survive? I know I'm gonna run out of money there, like one way or another. I don't have a lot. Like what's gonna happen? And it was tough. And then I'm very grateful, and I don't know how to thank Isaac Greeley, uh, Evan Boris, Dominic Mazzotta, and Phil Maris. These guys, like when I came down here, they really structured a plan, and these four people literally like came up with a master plan and like a game plan of for my career,
Yep.
for my training. And then uh and then I started training down here, and it was good that I finally started like doing this full time. Like it still didn't feel real to me,
Yep.
still training and stuff. But then these 4.5 months, if I'd say if it was been easy, I would lie to you. It's been
Oh,
it's been definitely hard.
yep.
Sometimes sitting in rooms and just sitting in my room and just getting homesick out of nowhere, and like thinking about my family. And then my mom calls me. Sometimes she gets a little emotional. We talk, and finding work and down here, and like try to survive financially a little bit. And then fighting like fighting through injuries. Like I had this injury when I came down here, when I was training, and I got into my training camp. My thumb was hurting like pretty bad. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
bend it. And I was wrestling through my fight camp. So the goal was is to fight the fight, uh, fight the fight with the injury, and then take care of the injury afterwards.
Yeah.
And then after the fight, uh, the injury was still there, so we were recovering. It was getting better, 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 better. And then we just took this fight that I fought on the weekend 2.5 weeks ago. Just
Yeah.
try to taking fight that I'm here, and then walking into this fight, it was hurting, but it was recovering. And then this fight, I injured my hand in round one. I felt it. I felt numb. And then opponent was tough. He was tough. He was from New York, Vincent. He's from Renzo Gracie gym, very good gym.
Yeah.
Uh, and then round one, I really felt my hand like go numb and go like really hot. So and then and I was winning the round. In the last 15 seconds, he hit me with two crosses. First cross hit me,
Yeah.
second one rocked me, and I fell down on one knee. And
Yeah.
then after that, I don't remember what happened. I was concussed in the fight.
Yeah.
And then I was concussed in the fight. I don't know how I survived, but I felt like I was like an autopilot.
Mhm.
I was like an autopilot. I just literally fought. I don't know how I fought. I don't know what I said in my speech, like after fight speech. I came into realization is when we went to the change room, and I got back to the change room after this fight, and then I turned around to my coach, coach, and Phil was there, and I said, "So I said, when am I fighting?" And they're like, "Dude, you just fought." And then I said, "Oh, okay.
You
Did I
shouldn't
win?"
laugh at that, by the way. You
And I
shouldn't
said,
laugh.
Did I win?" Yes. I said, "Did I win?" They're like, "Yeah, you did, but you got dropped." I said, "No, I didn't, man. I didn't get dropped." They're like, "Yes, you did." And I'm like, "So I lost. You guys are telling me I got dropped, I lost?" They're like, no. You got dropped, but you won." And I'm like, "No, man, you're kidding me." I pulled Phil, Dominic to the side. I said, "Guys, come on, like, stop shitting me." Like, did I win? I was pretty bad, concussed. My opponent came back to talk to me. He said something like, "Oh, something like that. I could have finished you," and I wasn't like conscious, still concussed in my mind. I just, yeah, whatever. I just said something and I left, and then I found out what he said after. But it's whatever. It's not personal. It's fight business.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then finally, after the fight, and when the change room got empty, I said with one of my uh, coaches down here, Matt Schaefer. He's like a jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's like, "You're good. You won this fight, but you got concussed." When he said that, like, he rang bells. I said, "Oh, concussion. Oh, yeah, I got that. Yeah."
Yeah.
And then it was good, man. This fight I've been through. Talk about adversity, getting knocked out, getting my hand broken, and I like it was tough. Like I was tested. I was really tested this fight, and I'm happy. I'm happy because like I put on a good show for people to come watch. I really showed people my true character.
Yeah.
I really tested myself through adversity, like how I've been fighting a warrior through my whole life,
Yeah.
and it really gave me this feeling that I'm gonna be like I could hang in there deep waters with guys in worst come scenario, and it made me respect the game. It made me respect the game in ways is like no matter how good you are, someone stupid with a game without a game plan with the 4 ounce gloves could like
Yeah.
really like what I mean, could win without a game plan, with just like a
Yeah.
simple
Yeah.
1-1-2. So you made me really respect the game more, and really made me understand that like there's levels to this, and if I want to be better, I got to be like super on point. So I mean, it's a live and learn thing, and I'm happy. Like I'm happy with the outcome, and I'm just happy I finally found what I love to do. It doesn't feel like work anymore,
Yeah.
and I feel like now as I'm getting older, I'm not being cocky, but I'm being realistic. Like I see that I could manifest whatever I want if I truly put in the work, put in the time, put in the effort and sacrifice. Right?
So,
Things like in order for you to achieve things, you have to give away something, right?
yeah.
In order for you to get it. So
Yeah.
like
So
it's been tough, but I've been going through it, man.
one more
It's been
one more question, and this kind of relates away back to everything that we started the podcast with. Where are you heading? What is the dream then? So from someone as a 3-year-old had to flee from the Taliban with their family,
Mhm.
spent 15 days traveling to safety in Russia, then moving to Belarus, then getting an application through UNICEF to move to Canada. How's this story going to end? What is your ultimate dream? Where are you heading? I think that's the ultimate question.
My ultimate dream right now is to be the top 5 Afghan to be signed in the UFC. So right now, the first ever fighter in the UFC is Siar Bahadurzadeh. He's like the pioneer. He was the first person seeing him fight, seeing him represent Afghanistan, seeing him represent the flag, seeing him train with John Jones, seeing him train with Greg Jackson, and seeing him train with Henry Hooft, with top guys and hanging ditch, seeing him train with Alistair Overeem, Tyrone Spong, with legends like that,
Yep,
and
yep.
seeing him compete. So he really brought the light to me to say that we if that Afghan kid could do it, if that kid that came through a war-torn country like I did, I could do it. And then seeing the second fighter, Nasser Hakparas, that he's in the UFC lightweight, he's doing good. We just got a third Afghan signed in the UFC. I'm sure it's Jaweed. He lives in London, actually. He trains at London Shoot Fighters with the MVP.
Michael
And
Page,
yeah, and he just was the third Afghan. So I'm chasing to be in that top 5.
Yeah.
And my goal is to make it to the big leagues, is to provide generation wealth like what my dad did. What my dad did, he sacrificed his life, he sacrificed his family, he sacrificed everything to give the best life to me. And he not just to me, but he gave me this generation wealth to the family so that I'm good in Canada, right? My kids good, my kids good. So what my goal is to give back to my dad's how can I say, to give back, not just to my dad, but to give back to say thank you to my dad by making something out of my life so I could appreciate and give back and be able to support my generation of this Nayimi upcoming, future kids. So that way my kids, my kids, my future kids, even my brother right now, nobody should face and go through what I did. Right. Yeah. We've been through a lot and I don't want that. I don't want to break that cycle. And I want my future kids to kind of look up to us, to look up to how hard we worked, and to change my generation wealth, and to build something out of my life to say one day to my dad, hey, thank you for sacrificing. Because I feel like if I don't build anything, or if I don't sacrifice and become successful in life, it's just like a slap to my dad's face to say, oh, you know what I mean? He sacrificed so much. So for me not to work hard and not to be able to give back something is just, it won't feel right. I won't be able to sleep. So that's just like one of my goals. And the other thing is too, I want to bring hope, just like to my people back home. We got MMA is rising back in Afghanistan. It's very under resources. Gyms a lot. People don't have a lot of money and stuff like that. And I want to bring hope, just like Sierra Bahadurzada was the first Afghan, and seeing him achieve this big goal, being in Canada, saying, yes, I could make it if I'll go work. So I want to bring hope to the younger generation, and just be a good example to my brothers and sisters. One thing I don't like is being successfully high and then having my brother be like this. Like, I want them to achieve. I want them to work hard. And the other thing it is too is when people hear my story and what I've been through and my journey and stuff like that, they're always fascinated of how much I've been through, and they always see my level of striking. It's like they always amazed by how good it is, and always sometimes if once we finish this podcast, you could definitely look into the gym that I used to train kick fighter. To this day, I'm still amazed and shocked that I used to train with those guys. I used to train with top of the food chain guys, a lot of I'm very grateful of who I trained with, how many people who I've been around, and to be able to soak all the energy. And I've been training since 2007 until now. So it's been almost 14 years deep into martial arts, and martial arts changed me. Martial arts brought me confidence. Martial arts brought me you gave me so much things. I owe it to the sport, man. If it wasn't for the sport, I'd probably just been this depressed kid that never thought nothing would have been impossible. And these past recent days that I've finally live up to my fullest dream, I really fight and I really love what I do. I've been getting a lot of attention from a lot of management. I'm recently was hit by MTK MMA, one of the very famous UK management that manages. They're big in boxing, Tyson Fury and other guys, but they got Darren Till and a few other guys under them, and we're talking. They're reaching out to me. They've seen my fights. I'm making a buzz. People are slowly starting to remember my name, and I'm promoting myself. I love the attention, man. When I fight, it's it's my moment. I finally get a little 30 seconds. People I don't want to say I'm cocky, but I love to put on a show. We're in the entertaining business, right? So it's I love that tension. It's addicted. I train so hard, I sacrifice. So when I get that little 30-second on the mic, I like to make people laugh. I like to put on a show so that way people remember me and and you get to know me and stuff like that. So I've been getting good attention. A lot of promoters down here really love me, people down here, and I have a very good, unique story. And it's been crazy. Like things are slowly starting to click in, and things are like slowly happening better, and like I'm getting 1% better, and I'm always grateful, but I'm never satisfied, you know? Like
I
it's
mean,
just that feeling. So it's good. And like it's crazy, man. Even like I moved down to Pittsburgh 4 months ago. My aunt called me 2 months prior while I stayed in Pittsburgh. Her husband worked for the CIA, for the American Army, for 12 years. And she called me crying about how they're coming after her husband, they're coming to kill them because the Taliban just recently took over, and she begging me to help. And I was like, I'm a Canadian citizen down here. I'm definitely getting my visa. But then I was wondering, I'm like, how am I gonna help her? So I came into conclusion just calling Red Cross down here. I called Red Cross, got his work papers from the embassy, sent it to them. They got in contact with them in embassy in Afghanistan, and they rescued them from Afghanistan. They brought them over to Pittsburgh.
brilliant.
Talk
Yeah.
about being life miracle. Like it's just my life is so crazy. It's like a miracle. Like it's just miracle after miracle. Like I never thought my idea would coming here would benefit someone else's life, like my aunt, like as a refugee. So she got rescued now. She came into Pittsburgh last week on Monday.
Mhm.
After 9 years, I finally met her. I took him over. They're at the hotel. They're getting a little assistance from the government. She has 4 kids and her husband. I took him over to Walmart. I bought him clothes, shoes. We went out to grocery stores, bought him some food. We ate some dinner. I showed him, I introduced him to my friends, and took them out. And she finally came to my fight after 9 years, dude. Talk about that. It's just like a crazy miracle that's been
Crazy
like,
life.
dude, like it's crazy. Like it just makes me wonder, like, what's next? Like, like, what's God's gonna bring me next? Like, what's God's plan? So it's like, it's crazy, man. And then I just feel like I'm getting more positive, seeing more bright light under this tunnel that I've been suffering as a kid. And it's crazy, man. I'm just grateful, and I'm excited what life brings. And I know I'm on the right track. Like to make it to the big league is just a matter of time. You know, just a matter of time. I'm surrounded by the right people, by the right environment, and I'm finally found what I love to do. So I'm gonna ride it out until the wheels fall off. So let's see how this goes.
Listen, what is this? My mind's absolutely blown by just everything that's happened in your life. So the only thing I can do is just wish you the best of luck. As you said yourself, you're surrounded by some amazing coaches there. As I say, Philip's spoken to about you, to me a couple of times now, and it was a real pleasure having you on the podcast. So
And
thank you so
it's
much.
a pleasure for me too, man. I'm sure hope to meet you one day in person, and
Inshallah,
I'll
brother.
tell you more some deep stuff that I've been to into life that I don't like to share. I'm a little like introvert, you know.
I
It takes a
understand.
while for me to kind of crack my
I
shell and then open up to someone. But I got some like crazy deep stories, dude. Some crazy stuff where it's just like it's so personal for me to share it, but it's just like sometimes coming from like a culture like mine where like it's hard, like you're Muslim, like men have no feelings, this
Hey,
and
I
that,
understand.
and like not being able to learn that you have to vent out. It's like mental health. It's something nice, and I'm slowly starting to learning how to meditate because my parents didn't graduate. My mom didn't graduate high school. My dad graduated high school, but like they weren't educated. They it wasn't taught like, hey, read more books or meditate
No,
or
I
do
understand.
this or learn life, like learn how to save money. So it's like I'm finally learning and maturing in life, and it's tough, and it's very hard for me to sometimes to understand that I'm a little different than this average, like than an average person. So it's like it's sometimes different for me to adjust to something or to like learn, or it's like it's
But
hard, but
that that
it's
that
getting
that'll
along to it.
that'll that'll come with maturity as well. You're still a
Mhm.
young man.
Yeah, man.
As you get a wee bit more mature, you'll get a wee bit more emotionally mature, and then things you'll be able to process things a wee bit better. But listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. So
Thank you, man.
and
Appreciate it. It
again,
was definitely.
another shout out to. Sorry, I lost you there again, but I was just going
No
to
worries.
say another shout out to Philip Ramirez Jr. for hooking this conversation up. Uh,
Yeah, man. I'm very happy be working with Phil. He's been a huge help for me down here for this fight camp, and I love picking his brain. We've been training a lot, and he's been helping me a lot with this fight camp, and it's great to see how much amazing people I have that around me, that support me, and like support me, and always there for me. So it's very I'm very grateful, like, because I suffered a lot, that when I see personally someone else suffer, like in the gym, outside the gym, it gives
Yeah.
me PTSD. I never like to see someone suffer or cry. It's just like I automatically try to offer help. And with Phil, it's like same thing. Like he always checks up on me,
Yeah.
calls me after this fight. I got a little banged up, so he's like checking on me, calling me, and telling me we got to do this. So I'm very grateful to have him, and thank you for having me. And this is
Well,
my first time being on a podcast and sharing my story. So I'm sure
you spoke very well.
down the road, a couple of years ago, when I make it to the big leagues, we're gonna look back at this, and
Yeah.
definitely, this thing's gonna hit a couple of million views, man, for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, right. Have a brilliant day. And again, listen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it,
All
man.
right.
It was a
Take
pleasure,
care.
man. Have a nice day.
Bye bye. Bye bye now.
Bye.